Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the 7 Minutes podcast, where we talk about games for 7 minutes and maybe more than 7 minutes. I am your host, Zack. On my right is my co-host, Angela.
Hello. Good afternoon.
And on my left is some guy.
The editor-in-chief of Nintendo Joe, Robert Marrujo. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Real genteel.
Mr. Some Guy here is wearing a Pokemon t-shirt.
Yep, my sister bought it for me.
It has Pikachu's name in English and in Japanese.
It's really cute.
But before we get to talking about Pokemon, we are going to talk about what we've been playing this week, right?
Yes, our new tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Angela, how about you start us off?
Okay. At Zack's gentle urging, I picked up Final Fantasy XIV again. I'm still doing the demo. I guess it's a demo. Or what do you...
Yeah, you're on the the free
trial. Yeah. And I had started that like last year or something like that, and then put some time into it, kind of dropped it, went on to other games, and then Zack was like, hey, we could play together.
We could.
If you picked it up again.
That's right.
So I've been doing some of that.
Wasn't that just spiffy?
Yeah.
It is. Mm-hmm. On a potentially related note, I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV. There was a free login period, which happens sometimes for lapsed subscribers to come in and get, reacquainted, re-addicted.
Well, I think isn't the PS5 version launching soon-ish?
PS5's got an open beta. Because it is coming to PS5. I don't own a PS5 though, so
not yet.
Yeah, no, I probably will own a PS5 at some point, but that's not where I am now. Playing partly on PC and partly on PS4, depending on how bad I feel about monopolizing the TV while playing Final Fantasy XIV. It is a good game. I could talk about it at length, but I've been specifically, if anyone's listening and they are familiar with Final Fantasy XIV, I've been dipping into the Bosgen Resistance Save the Queen quests, which, like the Eureka content before it, is much more old-fashioned in its design than most of Final Fantasy XIV's design. Most of Final Fantasy XIV is, in broad strokes, patterned after World of Warcraft, and like later World of Warcraft, where it's a little more friendly to new players. The Eureka and Bosja segments of Final Fantasy XIV, as I understand it, now that I have first-hand experience, are more influenced by much older MMOs where you just like walk out into the wilderness and get killed and penalized for getting killed. It's a lot more hardcore in that sense, but it kind of gets my blood pumping as a result. So, thumbs up. Robert?
I have been playing a couple of things. I played and beat Panzer Dragoon for the first time. I enjoyed it. I got the limited run version, so I think all the patches and everything were already applied, because I know that the remake got a bad rap when it came out, but the version I played I thought was fun. And I've never played the original, so I can't compare it. And then I'm playing Monster Hunter Rise. Rise is really good. I've played other Monster Hunters before, but I've never really gotten into one where I'm like, oh, I want to just keep playing this. But this particular one, I really just like the rhythm of it, and I think the setting of the main hub, which is this kind of ninja village, that also makes it really appealing to me. So Rise is very good. And my buddy and his girlfriend, the two of them love Monster Hunter, so I'm sure this will be good for them because it means I'll be willing to sit and play on hunts and quests and whatever.
It's good to have people to play with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which actually really nicely brings us into the discussion of Pokemon.
Well, before we get there, I want to say that I had seen, we got to watch you play a little bit of Monster Hunter Rise. I know you're just fairly early on still, but it's amusing to see you doing like all these, super intense whirling dagger ninja strike things. And it's just like 2s and 3s coming out of like the damage.
It's a slow build up. These battles take time.
It just seems like it's meant to be epic, and it's just like plink, 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 plink.
Well, it's supposed to kind of drag out. I'm fighting like the big fat bunny bear thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but as Robert was saying, we are talking about a game that has some playing with friends baked into its design in Pokemon series. In terms of how to structure talking about Pokemon, I thought, especially because both of you, and especially Angela, you kind of grew with the series from the start. Like, you played the Gen 1 games when they were new, and both of you have kind of kept up with the games as they come out. So you've experienced the whole series in a chronological order.
Yeah.
My experience is a little more fractured because I didn't really play Pokemon. So I thought it might make sense to go through kind of chronologically. I'm sure most of the things you guys want to say is going to be about Gen 1 and associated media, since that just looms so large.
We might end up repeating previous stories and anecdotes, because I know we've touched on Pokemon a little bit before in passing, but...
Well, if you do find yourself compelled to repeat a story, try and put some spin on it.
Well, I have to remember if I repeated it or not. That's
right.
the warning. I don't know if I'll be repeating stories.
Best be safe and just not have Robert talk for the duration of the episode.
I see.
Yeah. Angela, why don't you kick us off talking about Gen 1, since I think you were the first to really get into it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, Robert is about 4.5 years older than me. Zack is 10 years older than me. So I was the demographic that Pokemon was aimed at. Obviously, it came out in Japan a little earlier, but when it came to the U.S., I was in elementary school, like second or third grade, and Pokemon. It isn't just about the games, really. Especially if you're talking about people, around my age who we experienced it when it was new. It was a global phenomenon. I mean, for those of you that lived it, those of us that lived it, it was really just kind of amazing seeing the reaction to Pokemon. Obviously, for us kids, it was like we couldn't get enough. For the adults, there was this level of concern over, obsession, and then you had the kind of, fundamentalist religious side that was like, this is devil worship and this is evil, and
I've never understood that.
I don't get it.
Well, you got to keep in mind that there, like, some of the content in the game does lean, like, obviously not seriously in that direction, but things like Gengar and, Ghastly, right? These are a cult.
I should...
Alakazam with his mind magics.
I will say, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone's religion. We grew up in a Catholic household. We're really not good Catholic, but our parents did not. They didn't care. They weren't freaking out over Pokemon.
We had sensible parents.
Yes, but it was really interesting. I remember in elementary school, Pokemon cards actually ended up getting banned. I think because I think it was like a distraction, considered a distraction, and so I remember I think it was the third grade. There was a really large, wide redwood tree on the grounds, and us Pokemon kids would go behind the redwood tree and engage in these illicit black market trading of cards in secret, so we didn't get in trouble for having Pokemon cards on us when we weren't supposed to. And so, my childhood growing up playing Pokemon is as much thinking about, the cards, which were huge and were like a really important part of the Pokemon culture, as much as it is thinking about the games.
That's interesting. And I mean, it makes sense. I think compared to other games franchises that might have developed like transmedia elements to them, like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, or various bits of merchandise, or things like Advent Children with Final Fantasy, like Pokemon, it's not that it was necessarily designed. Maybe it was designed to be like transmedia in that way, to have like the trading card game and all that stuff, but it's certainly like the phenomenon hit America with the games and the anime and the trading cards, like all in a relatively short span, right?
Yeah.
It was fairly coordinated.
And I think that probably explains why it was such an explosion of popularity all at once.
Plus, they had the fortunate, not side effect, but they were fortunate enough that all of this media was good.
Yeah.
So it's like, it wasn't just that the games were good, the trading card game was actually good, and then the anime was actually good, and toys are toys, but I mean, even the toys were engaging, so it's like you had this multifaceted launch that was perfect. Like, you couldn't have asked for it to be better. I think maybe, I mean, not even the Ninja Turtles necessarily compares, because the Turtles, kids weren't really reading the comic. They were just watching the cartoon, and then there was the toys.
Yeah.
But Pokemon comes along and is like, here's the video game, here's the show, here's the toys, and here's the cards, and you love all of it.
So I take only so much pleasure in calling you both out. But Robert, you just said that the trading card game was really good.
It's been played to this day. It doesn't matter if I know how to play it or not.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, neither of you, like, both of you have collected a lot of Pokemon, the trading card game cards. But
I'm slowly learning. Thank you.
Yeah, I've never learned.
20 some odd years later.
I've never learned. It was just about collecting. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, the cards themselves. I mean, I'm very picky about a lot of things. I prefer the look and the feel and the design of the old cards. I remember there was a KB Toys in Alameda, California. I think it was the release of the Team Rocket set. And Wizards of the Coast was giving away pre-release cards. So if you went to KB Toys, and I don't know if that was a KB's exclusive or not, but if you went to KB Toys, you could get a couple of pre-release cards. And I have those. And I miss stuff like that. And I feel like that's kind of something that's been lost over time with Pokemon. But I remember going, and it was either, you know, my aunt and my grandma or my parents, one of the two, took me to go get those cards. But that feeling of excitement, and, you know, the anime, I would watch it every day after school. That was a huge part of my childhood. And then I'd get up at like 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday to watch the new episodes. I can't get up at 7:30 anymore on a Saturday. I would much rather sleep in. And I remember, too, the local comic shop started carrying the Pokemon manga. But it was in single. It wasn't in, like, you know, the volumes that we associate now with manga in America. It was the single issue comics. I have so many of those, and that's actually a really interesting comic. There's a lot of kind of borderline adult content in there in some of the some of the issues. But yeah, I mean, Pokemon was truly a phenomenon. I mean, TV Guide when TV Guide was still a thing. They had like a multi-issue, like 4-issue, whatever you want to call it, like TV Guide set. Like, you could get
variants.
Yeah, variants. Thank you. And you could put them together, and they formed one big long image. We still have ours, which I think has Pikachu on the cover. But
yeah, Pokemon was fascinating because I would have been about 11, I think, when it came out. Because I'm 34 right now, and that was 23 years ago. So that's 11.
25.
For America,
for America, yeah 23.
So I would have been 11, I think.
Yeah.
For me,
I'm double checking my math.
Yeah. I think so.
I didn't really play it, but I remember my introduction to Pokemon was my first summer back after starting college, and I don't remember the exact nature of it, but I was like volunteering with some special needs kids who were, you know, 1998 kids are, you know, grade school age, like 8 or 10 or whatever. And let me tell you, there were some kids in that group that were very, very, very extremely into Pokemon and showing people their Pokemon. So that was my first.
Show Zack my Pokemon.
You still show me your Pokemon.
Well, for me, I'm almost positive I've mentioned this before, but I was not into it at first. Angie was into it. For me, because I guess at 11... I would have been in middle school probably, or just starting.
Well, probably would have been like the 5th grade.
5th grade?
Yeah.
All I know is in my brain, it screamed cute, not cool. And because it had cutesiness to it, I just couldn't get into it. And I knew it was a Nintendo thing, and I loved Nintendo even at that age, but Pokemon, just for whatever reason, didn't work for me for the first 5 years at least, probably. But despite that, I would watch it constantly because Angie would have it on after school. So I would watch Pokemon. I would see her collecting everything. And then Angie got a Pikachu stuffed animal. And that was a momentous occasion. It was a summer vacation day. We were at my grandma's house, and my aunt had come home for lunch, and we were all outside swimming in the pool. And so, shout out Dom and Steph, our cousins. We were all there. Linda brought food, but Linda also stopped at KB's, same one in South Shore in Alameda, and she picked up stuffed Pikachus for Dom, Steph, and Angie. And I remember him being on that little platform. It was like a little cardboard platform, red, with his arms outstretched. And that became Angie's absolute favorite stuffed animal. Mm-hmm. She used to have a little stuffed tiger, but Pikachu rapidly replaced him in terms of being beloved.
Yeah, Tiger's still around. He's just in a big Rubbermaid plastic bin with a bunch of other stuffed animals. But Pikachu is in our closet, much to Zack's chagrin.
So Pikachu has obviously eclipsed everything else from the original generation of Pokemon and even the entirety of the rest of Pokemon. Like, Pikachu is definitely like the mascot of the entire series. Mm-hmm. And is available to accompany you from the start if you play Pokemon Yellow.
Indeed.
But, Angela, you started with Pokemon Red, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Robert, did you ever go back and play Gen 1?
No. Actually, I was sitting here trying to think what was the tipping point for me, because I eventually did get into it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it was a few years later. I don't know what made me just realize it was an idiotic protestation. I was just like pretending not to like it after a certain point. And then I was just like, no, I think I like this. And I guess it would have been around the Game Boy Advance era. The only problem is I'm trying to think, when did Nintendo DS come out?
2004, I want to say.
It was about 2004, so that would have been when I graduated. I know I played the Game Boy Advance Pokemon. I have not played the Game Boy Pokemon, but from the Game Boy Advance forward, I've played everything.
And you played the Gen 1 remake on Game Boy Advance? Okay, so the question I was actually leading to was, who was your starter?
Oh, well, in Pokemon Red and Blue and Pokemon Leaf Green, it was Charmander.
All in on Charmander.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Pikachu is kind of my default favorite Pokemon, but if you take Pikachu out of the picture, mm-hmm. Charizard is my favorite Pokemon.
Okay. Robert?
I definitely like Charizard of the 3 original starters the most, mm-hmm. but I have a little bit of a weird thing where if I'm playing the games, because I'll always get both versions, never like I get one version, I get both. And that means I'll try to use a different starter for each. Mm-hmm. So the game I like the most, so for example, I probably would say I like Leaf Green the most because green's my favorite color. There's no logic here.
That's fine. It's fairly arbitrary.
But because that was the game I liked the most, that's the one I would use Charizard as my starter. Mm-hmm. And then whichever, like Fire Red. Charmander, sorry. And then I would use Squirtle probably for Fire Red.
Yeah, he's tactical,
I was never a Bulbasaur fan.
He's using Charmander to burn his way through the green version of the game, right? And Squirtle to quench the fires of the red version of the game. Well, that's very smart.
Well, see, I didn't think about this as a kid, but realized later that when you choose Charmander, you're putting yourself at a strategic disadvantage for the first 2 gyms. Mm-hmm. And it is difficult.
Right, Bulbasaur is supposed to be the easy start, I think?
I believe so. But, you're just scratching everything and using, like, Ember or whatever, and it's not very effective, but I feel like that made me a more resilient player.
I think that's a cool design element, that you can actually, like, it's kind of a soft difficulty slider built into the game, and it's obviously secret. If you're a kid, you don't realize that, but it's kind of like, I think most people are probably going to think that the flaming lizard that turns into a kind of dragon looking thing is the coolest one. And it's cool that ends up being kind of like the prestige starter to some degree because it's harder mm-hmm. at the start.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's it's kind of a softer way to do that difficulty because after all, you can assemble whatever team you want on your way to those first gyms. Mm-hmm. It's not like you need Charmander to carry that weight.
Right.
It's cool. I'm recalling I did try Pokemon sometime in my early 20s. I did not get very far with Fire Red. Not Fire Red. It was Red. It was the original Game Boy version. Mm. And I remember starting with Charmander. So I think we're just like all Team Charmander. Mm-hmm. But I like Bulbasaur more now, but that didn't pan out in my abortive attempts to play Fire Red. I did eventually play Yellow all the way through. That's actually the only Pokemon game I've played through and completed.
Yellow, you started playing that on your 3DS, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we had just started dating. That was like 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we're talking about starters, it's making me think of the giant TCG cards you can get right now. I forget what the number is, but they're taking every single set of 3 starters from each generation of the game and re-releasing their original cards, but oversized. And there's a binder that you can buy and put all of them into it. And looking at all the starters, I think it's kind of fascinating how, I mean, it's a double-sided thing here. I think that there's this undeniable appeal to the first 3 starters, because I don't think that there's a kid today who wouldn't recognize the original 3 and probably have some kind of fondness for them, just because I think they just sort of nailed the visual look and feel for those first 3 so well. But at the same time, each generation has its own, this is the first Pokemon I played, and these are the first 3 starters I was exposed to. And it's kind of neat looking at each of those generations and thinking, there's a group of kids who picked up Pokemon for the first time, and that was their first 3.
Although I will say, I've actually kind of had to step back recently and realize that so much time has passed since Gen 1 that there actually is maybe a couple generations now of kids who they don't even really know much about Gen 1 or Gen 2. They don't even really care because they love Diamond and Pearl or whatever, Black and White. Like, they don't have that fondness and attachment to Gen 1 and Gen 2. And I've actually seen people get into petty arguments in the comments on, especially like Instagram posts for Pokemon, where like, I'm tired of Gen 1, I'm tired of Gen 2. You're like all basically like, all you old people, quote unquote.
I can understand being tired of Gen 1 because it does, like, unlike Gen 2, like Gen 1 in particular, those starters have had such a strong presence in like merchandise and other cross-media representation of the franchise this whole time.
Mm-hmm. So your first statement, wrong about like understanding of being tired of Gen 1, wrong.
Well, no, I'm not saying, like, I understand, like, people have been exposed to it enough that it would make coherent sense to say you're tired of it. But like, where is Totodile showing up that people are getting sick of it?
I was going to say, I slightly disagree with Angie about Gen 2. I think Gen 1 has been milked to death in terms of just merchandising it.
Oh, for sure.
Because, like, if you look... So I bought...
let me just say, I'm not the one who've made those comments that I've read.
Yes, very, very good point.
I'm just repeating what I've read.
So I just bought a playing mat for Pokemon at a comic shop, because I'm learning how to play, thank you. And the mat has... whatever was the current 3 new starters on it, but coupled with the Gen 1 starters. So I think Nintendo, they know the value of Gen 1 and they exploit it, and they latch onto it. But Gen 2, I wish they would do a little more with, actually. Continue.
Gen 2, I find Gen 2 almost as cool as Gen 1. I remember Gen 2 felt really, something about it felt kind of futuristic when the Gen 2 games came out, Gold and Silver and then later Crystal. I don't know what it was. It was just weird thoughts of my childish brain, but it felt a little futuristic. And I think it was like some of the Pokemon kind of had that sleek look, and it was kind of playing on being a little futuristic, like Porygon 2. Or even Umbreon has this kind of sleek, smooth look. Caesar... even to some extent Steelix a little bit, they have that, and this is also the gen where Steel was introduced and Dark were introduced, and something about those kind of felt a little futuristic. But yeah, I do think that Gen 2 gets underappreciated, especially in terms of like merchandising or even just kind of overall discussions of the games. Gen 2 is great.
Yeah, I think it's often the case where like, the generation hopping edition of a game, so like the first game on the Super Nintendo in a series, the first game on N64 in a series gets an outsized amount of attention, and the follow-up on the same console maybe a little less. And I know it's Game Boy Color for Silver and Gold, right?
It's Color for Crystal, but I think it's
you
still
can play
Game
it either
Boy.
way.
All right, so
Yeah,
even
but
more.
it's still Game Boy for
It's like
Gold
an
and Silver.
enhanced on color or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would have been in a black cartridge if it wasn't in the colored cartridges they were in.
Okay. Yeah, but I think it's, to some extent to be expected that like the second Game Boy generation is going to be a little less appreciated.
It's interesting because it's amazing they managed to get to the second generation. I mean, it was once it landed, it was a huge hit. But if you look at the origins of it, it's very fascinating how you had Shigemori and Tajiri. They meet in college, and Game Freak's a fanzine, and then they start making video games, and then they get the idea. Tajiri gets the idea for Pokemon, and it's just amazing that confluence of events because I believe Tajiri and Miyamoto were friends, or kind of like colleagues, and Miyamoto seemed interested in helping them to be successful because they let them do the Mario and Wario game that was Japan exclusive, and Tajiri shows up to Nintendo and is like, hey, I have this idea for this game where it's kind of like Gashapon and there's the different creatures. And then Miyamoto says, turn it into 2 games, and then you can put different rosters of the creatures in each. But, like, the development sounds like it was hell because, like, the idea that the computer it was being made on was, like, they were switching between computers because they were overheating and they almost lost all of the data and all that mayhem. And then you get the game, and it just, through luck or whatever, worked. And was really fun.
I mean, it was a strong concept. I think that did a lot. I think, like, look, if I'm going to be honest, I feel like the battle mechanics, at least in the first Pokemon game, are pretty lackluster compared to other JRPGs. But I can't speak to what changes they've made to the way the battles work in subsequent games. But it kind of doesn't matter. Like, I don't really think Pokemon was going to succeed or fail on the strength of, like, the depth of its battle mechanics.
Well, I do think they got better, and to be fair, I mean, a Game Boy RPG at that point, I mean, was there anything really pushing super advanced mechanics in terms of RPG elements?
I definitely think that the Final Fantasy Legend or Saga games,
which ironically inspired Tajiri to make it on Game Boy.
I do think those are more interesting mechanically in terms of like battle preparation and execution. For me, I don't want to dwell on this point because I don't want to spend the episode like bagging on Pokemon, but the fact that it's like 1v1 does reduce the decision-making complexity in combat in ways that I wish I found kind of frustrating when I did play Yellow through.
Well, I wonder, with Pokemon, I mean, clearly younger people are the target audience and kind of remain the target audience, but I also think Nintendo knows that. For one thing, because if you look at each game has introduced new mechanics and challenges, and now you're at a point where I think there's like, the multiple Pokemon sometimes in a battle and stuff like that.
Teams now.
But it's cool how Nintendo has been willing to scale things up in terms of difficulty to an extent, where it's like, is it ever going to be as advanced as like a Final Fantasy? No. But I think they're aware that you'll always have the kids who come in, and then you have the people who are never going to stop playing. And as time has gone by, they've realized, I think, more and more that, yes, you have a persistent crowd that's not outgrowing this. It's kind of like Star Wars. It's like, they're always going to play. I had a college professor who was a science teacher, and she was saying that when she would go home at night, she'd play Pokemon with her children. And that, this was years ago at this point, but when I heard that, it really burned itself into my brain just thinking, we're at a point where it's genuinely cross-generational. You have a woman who's playing with their children.
It's a different kind of Gen 2.
That's right. And that Nintendo, it makes the effort to try to please everyone, I think is a cool part of the franchise.
The only thing, though, that is a drawback is that, when I tried to play Sun and Moon, I got so frustrated with that intro. It took so long, and it felt like such a hand-holding experience.
This was your Skyward Sword.
Yeah. yeah. And, Nintendo and Game Freak, they keep wanting to push this concept, this conceit of your friends. You're out there with your friends. And, maybe this is just my personality because I have a deliberately small circle of friends, and I've never been the big group of friends type person. But I can't stand it. This is part of why I like the first couple of games, because you don't have that forced friendship thing going on where Nintendo and Game Freak really, really want you to like your frenemy. That's the thing about, Red versus Blue, the characters, or God, I can't even remember the name of your rival in Gold and Silver.
But you like...
But they're not your friend. They are your rival. And they're not there to be nice to you. They're not there to provide some friendly challenge.
Yeah.
Blue's just an asshole. And I just feel like, in Nintendo, in their quest to make things more, appealing to everyone and make the game seem more accessible, you get this, the goofball whose name was, I can't even remember his name, and I don't care, but your friend/rival in Sun and Moon. I was like, this kid is obnoxious. I already can't stand him, and this tutorial just feels like you are holding my hand.
You would much rather have a straightforward black and white love to hate kind of villain.
Yeah. And especially too, it's if you're gonna write a frenemy type character, please don't make him so obnoxious. And this is of course all to taste. I'm sure there are some people listening who are just get out of here, you're wrong.
Yeah,
it's great, but
I think variety is good, right? Because if you incorporate that type of relationship maybe in some of the games, it's cool, but when it becomes sort of we're not just going to have the straight antagonistic character to fight against anymore.
Yeah, because you have that in, I think it's Black and White, where you have your group of friends, and they're all the kind of tropey anime type personalities, and that is part of the reason why Pokemon has not lost me. I've purchased all of the games from every generation. I buy both every time, or the third, depending on if there was a third, but as time has gone on, Pokemon is starting to feel like it's losing what drew me in to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I really, really love about Gens 1 and 2, and the reason why they're my favorite, it's not just nostalgia, it's not just because it's what I grew up with, it's because they were rooted in a much greater sense of realism than whatever is going on with Pokemon now. Gens 1 and 2 really felt like, and the intention was, that it's the world we're living in now plus Pokemon. So, you're in the grocery store and there's a Machoke who's stocking stuff too. That kind of the Pokemon being ingratiated into our lifestyle.
Right.
And the design of the environments look more realistic. Obviously, Pokemon's always had a little bit of that kind of not sci-fi, but kind of future-y kind of styling to some things. But with Gens 1 and 2, it was still more reminiscent of our world.
Yeah.
But then you start getting to Gens 3 and beyond, and there's this very heavy kind of sci-fi feeling to it. This kind of really not at all
grounded, not necessarily realistic.
Not super grounded, a little more fantastical, and that's where it kind of started to lose me.
I wonder if people are kids are just experiencing technology differently, because now you have kids that are raised. You've both talked before about how you didn't have the at-home internet, for example. Mm-hmm. So that's going to change your sense of I don't know, your childlike sense of what the world is, Yeah. You didn't have phones growing up, etc. And maybe kids just have a different amount of, not appetite for sci-fi per se, but like maybe more technology, more of that kind of like technological magic is what's going to seem more natural to them.
You know what is making me think of for some reason? Remember when I watched what's the Spider-Man that came out with the one before that, the first one,
Homecoming?
Yeah, I guess it was Homecoming. I just remember I was watching that with Zack, and I was complaining about how Peter's high school looked like something out of a Disney Channel show. And, like, it didn't look like a high school. It looks like something, you know, cutesy and just, like, nothing any regular American kid is going to. And, like, I understand they kind of deviated from the everyman Peter going to, like, a regular public high school in Queens or whatever. Like, he's kind of going to this kind of school for, you know, special genius kids, but it still didn't look real. It looked like a Disney Channel-fied high school.
I think that might be a good way to, like, the Disney Channelification of Pokemon.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I see going on with Pokemon right now, where it's like it's not the realistic or grounded in realism environments of Gens 1 and 2. It's like this kind of space-agey interpretation of the world.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, part of the appeal, I think, of especially the first game is it's Tajiri, and, you know, this has been said ad nauseum everywhere, but this concept is born of him being a kid and how he used to like exploring, not unlike Miyamoto, you know, just going into the woods. Tajiri would collect bugs and all of that. So if you are taking his childhood, which would have been probably, the 70s?
Yeah.
You know, he is in this lo-fi world. Mm-hmm. And so this game would reflect, especially because probably more than any of the games since, this is him very hands-on. He's building this vision that is born from his childhood. Mm-hmm. And now, you know, you get to the 7th or 8th generation of Pokemon. You know, this is it's been iterated upon so much that it's taking those elements that were probably more personal to him and they're not as focused on, and it's now more kind of modernized. But also, I mean, I think to your point about like having all the frenemies, you know, and then the annoying friend group.
Yeah.
Pokemon is more of a worldwide brand now. Mm-hmm. And so it's getting those kind of different markets being considered and, you know, make it appealing to as broad of a, you know, fan base as possible.
Yeah.
Because, good.
I'm curious to hear what your specific opinions are on the various generations, because I've definitely heard Angie express these feelings before about the drift of Pokemon over time. And I know most of your fondness for the series is rooted in the first 2 generations, but surely there are ways in which, like, the third and the 6th generation differ from each other also. And I think I'm interested in hearing that. But first, it's time for round 1 of the Marrujo Trivia Challenge for Pokemon.
Oh, no.
Surprise. So, same rules as before. Go ahead and say your name.
Your name is your buzzer.
In.
Shout out Ben Mallor.
Okay.
This is going to be real good, guys. I came up with some good questions.
Okay.
Number 1. Only one Pokemon in series history has carried the Pokedex category Legendary Pokemon. And it is not even a legendary Pokemon. What is it?
Arcanine? Sorry.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. It is Arcanine.
Interesting.
Sorry, I forgot to shout out my name. But, yeah. Okay.
I think it's a reasonable guess. That's why I thought it was a reasonable question, because Arcanine, you know, was kind of a quasi, not quite legendary Pokemon from the first generation.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Number 2. What is Giovanni's full name?
Even I don't know this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
No guesses?
No.
Rigatoni v. Giovanni.
All right. Giovanni's full name is Giovanni. This was a trick question.
Come on.
How annoying.
Get out of here.
Number 3. In the fiction of the games, what is the name of the fruit which was hollowed out and used as Pokeballs prior to modern mass production of Pokeballs?
You talking about like the berries, like Pecha berries, or?
I'm not talking about Pecha berries.
I do not know, but apparently this is going to fly in the face of the steam-powered Pokeballs that are being introduced for Legends.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to this one.
It's apparently from Gen 2. It's called the apricorn.
Oh, yeah! Because can't you collect?
You can do other things with them.
Yeah.
I guess you can make a juice out of them, but Pokemon can't eat unprocessed apricorn, which is why they can be used
That is correct, yeah. Wow, I completely forgot about that.
Okay. So, last question for this round. Name all the evolutions and tell me which is the most recent addition.
Angela.
Yes.
Okay, give me a second. Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon, Espeon, Umbreon, Leafeon, Glaceon, like Faireon? Or I can't remember the pink one. But I think isn't the pink one the most recent?
I'm gonna need a name. You've gotten 7 out of the 8.
This is not open note.
It's not open note, no.
Hang on. I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the pink one.
Robert, you might have just been looking it up, but can you provide the name?
Because he is looking at his phone.
Oh, I'm not looking it up.
Can you finish this off? Tell us the 8th evolution.
Let's see. It's the Eevee fairy type.
I don't need you to Google it. I have the answer in front of me.
It is the Eevee fairy type.
Oh, I told you, I don't know.
Okay. The last one is Sylveon.
Sylveon. There we go.
And that is the most recent one.
That is the most recent.
Yeah.
Angie's in the lead for guessing Arcanine.
She'd better be. This is her thing.
I just couldn't remember Sylveon.
And like almost 2 points.
I had everything correct, including that's the most recent.
We're being generous, we can call that a half-point answer.
All right.
Because you did know that the fairy one was the last one, at least, even if you couldn't get the name.
Have they not done a dragon type for Eevee yet? They should do a dragon one.
That's a break glass in case of emergency kind of maneuver.
Well, kind of going back to what we were previously talking about, I think one thing that is interesting, because like that fact about the Pokeballs, like the original Pokeballs, where like there's all this lore, and man, not to like gripe right now, but I think this was during the, because it's the 25th anniversary now, it must have been during the 20th anniversary. It was a period where, there was all these facts coming out about Pokemon, and then people were giving their hot takes on Pokemon at the time. And an editor from a gaming news website had been talking about some of the lore, and it was just clear that they hadn't bothered to research the lore. And it really bugged me because
it's all right there on Bulbapedia.
Well, it's all right there, but like the laziness of it. But then it was also feeding into their hot take. And
cherry-picked pieces of information.
Yes, but also like it's not to veer into a bunch of other stuff that is bothersome, but I don't like it if someone thinks all they have to do is make the hot take and the facts don't matter. It's like your hot take needs to be based in some reality. And like with Pokemon, there are 2 things I've always found really neat about it, and I feel are also kind of intrinsically Japanese. And one is just that sort of communion with nature. Like nature feels very much like it's a part of Pokemon. It's like, the environment that they're in, but also that people in the world of Pokemon seem very concerned about being respectful of the Pokemon themselves and the environment. And that's something I've always liked. And then I've always associated the battling with more ritualistic combat like sumo. And yet you'll get these clown people that show up and are like, it's like cockfighting. It's like, it's really not. And the way it's portrayed in the lore and in the world of Pokemon, it makes it clear what that relationship is supposed to be like.
Well, there's also, they make it clear that Pokemon enjoy battling.
Yes.
Yeah. And like, I think it's not completely unreasonable to say, like, well, what are the lessons kids are taking from this game are? And so, like, there's a sense in which it is fair to like make a criticism on those grounds, but I do think the context presented in the game does matter, and you can't just brush it away. Just the same way that like if you don't feed your kid when they ask to be fed, and it's because they don't need more food, and you're trying to instill a sense of discipline, that is different than not feeding your kid to punish them for embarrassing you or something like that, right? And you can't just strip out the reason you're doing it, or that like the kind of like ritual sumo kind of presentation of it, right? The presentation of Pikachu and Ash as teammates in the anime, right? Like you can't ignore all that if you're trying to make sense of it.
Context matters, and I feel like people think they can ignore context because they want to just make a point.
Well, that's why Team Rocket it's made very clear in Gen 1 that Team Rocket is bad because they are abusing Pokemon. And they are using them in battle, but they're using them like tools. There's not a trainer Pokemon relationship or friendship like a normal, not criminal trainer has. That's also one of the things that I liked about Team Rocket compared to all the other teams, is that Team Rocket feels genuinely bad. They feel genuinely creepy. They're involved in a lot of dark underground stuff. And I feel like as time has gone on, the teams have gotten more comical. Some of them are kind of almost slapstick stupid in a way. I mean, like, what is Team Yell? Like, are we for real right now? I remember.
You just complaining about the name?
Well, I mean, it's just stupid in general. Like, Team Yell.
I mean, it is a stupid name.
I mean, sure, you'd get laughed at in real life if, like, you were in a gang and it was like, we're Team Rocket. Like, all of you would get your asses kicked. But it's still, I mean, just in the context of the world, it's like, would you rather be on Team Rocket or would you rather be on, like Team Galaxia or whatever?
If you're in a gang and your gang's name starts with the word
team anything.
Yes. Maybe not
Clowns.
the perfect comparison to
No.
make.
Well, that's what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
That's why this is why I said in the real world, Team Rocket as an actual gang or crime syndicate would not get taken seriously. But within the world of Pokemon, I would much rather be on Team Rocket than Team whatever.
Absolutely.
Well, it's like kind of to Zach's point. It's fair to bring up criticisms, as you look at it. I mean, Pokemon was such a sensation. And you kind of wonder if it would have maybe even been more of one if it was like the world as we live in it now with the interconnectedness of the internet and everything. But it managed to overtake everyone's minds without social media, without everybody the majority of people on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's, of course it's going to lead to some people having questions and kind of wondering, well, what am I looking at? Especially because it does have some of those Japanese elements to it that you either do or don't get, I think, as like a fan. But now, over 20 years later, some of the commentary that will pop up here and there, I'll just kind of be floored by, because I'm like, have you been here from the beginning? Like, a lot of what you're talking about has been addressed. Or I think there was a little bit of uproar over, I'm not going to remember her name. She's a trainer. She's black. It's a water trainer. Nessa. And I remember reading some people's comments and they were acting as though they'd never seen a person of color in a Pokemon game. And I'm like, well, first of all, this isn't Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, they make it clear. I mean, to Angie's point, it was more grounded at the beginning, but it's always been, this is not the world that we live in. This is a different world. There is no America. There is no anything. It's the world of Pokemon.
They are based on real world locations, but even still, like at least the first couple games are based in Japan specifically, right? Like some of the later games are based in the equivalent of.
Well, like it's a thematic thing, sure, and visually, but the point is that it's not the real world. And also, though, I mean, just in terms of what representation means in Japan, and it was just this mess of people wanting to take this thing and shoehorn it into what their argument was going to be, and I'm like, you clearly don't understand what you're looking at. You don't understand the games, the lore. You're ignoring all the other characters that appeared, who were, if you want to talk about representation, representative of other people, just encapsulated in that one little moment. And it's that toxicity of current like internet culture that crept into Pokemon that really bugged me.
There's something there. We had a long tangent about games media, as well as a fair bit of talk about representation in the Okami episode. So we probably don't want to dwell on this too much. But you are right, and it is obviously frustrating to see commentary about something that you love that is deliberately ignoring certain aspects of its actual content and context.
Yeah.
Because, like, the battling especially, I get frustrated with. Like, I really don't like when people try to act like they're these enslaved creatures who are being forced to beat on each other. It's like you're completely missing the point. Like the Pokemon is not going to listen to you if it isn't interested in being with you as the trainer.
If it doesn't respect you because you don't have enough badges, because for the Pokemon, it's like those badges are representative of strength and your overall competency as a trainer. And this obviously gets explored in the anime. It's been explored in the anime since the beginning. With Charmander Charmeleon and then Charizard being defiant. But yeah, I mean, if the Pokemon doesn't respect you, it's not going to battle for you. Like, it's absolutely not a situation of, like, master and slave or anything like that.
And the Pokemon gets legitimate joy from, I think, the thrill of the competition, too. Mm-hmm. All points, I think, are fascinating. Because it's like, we don't look down on people who are, martial artists. Like, to them, it's something they take very seriously. It means something to them. They train for it. And yes, there's some people who are in it for different reasons, but overwhelmingly it's about competition. And I think it's cool in Pokemon the way it's always been sort of portrayed, and I feel like it's this very healthy thing, and to kind of disrespect it bothers me.
I could try and make a best defense as I can of that kind of analysis, but I would still disagree with it in the end, so I think it'd probably be a waste of time. I did ask before getting into the first part of the quiz, what are you guys' thoughts on, like, I don't know, like mid-period Pokemon, Gens 3, 4, 5?
That's where Pokemon started to lose me.
But, like, are there things you remember about, say, Gen 3 versus Gen 4? Because I haven't played any of these games. I played a little bit of, I think, Silver, but I've never tried Ruby or Sapphire or Diamond and Pearl or X and Y. I might have some of the names mixed up.
Ruby and Sapphire, that was the one that had secret bases and introduced the 2v2 battling system. And Gen 3 is fine, but Gen 3 is also like I didn't really like any of the starters, and so I also felt like that generation of Pokemon that was introduced just wasn't as compelling.
Is that the one with the hideous monkey?
Chimchar?
Yeah.
Or
Chimchar.
I'm sure if that's 3 or 4.
Hang on. I'm trying to remember.
Like, who were the bad starters?
Well, Angela thinks about that.
Because that's the one with... No. Chimchar is Gen 4. Isn't Piplup the Gen 3?
Piplup.
Water starter? No, that's Gen 4 as well. Hang on. What's that
Gen
one?
3
Mudkip? Mudkip is just Gen 3. I'm sorry.
He's a cutie.
Yeah, Mudkip is cute.
And Torchic, too.
Yeah, and Torchic is who I ended up...
I hate its final evolution, though.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's one of the best. The Kung Fu
Disco
Chicken
Pants.
Man.
Oh, my God.
I don't care for Blaziken. And, I mean, and what's his name?
Trico.
Yes. I was like the snotty grass Pokemon, Trico. They're fine, but they ultimately were just not my favorites. And then from then on, like, I can't really tell you much about what I did or didn't really like mechanically about the following generations. Like,
Okay.
I put some time into them and ultimately never really beat, I think, any of them because I just started to, like I said, I mean, the Pokemon themselves started to feel uninspired. One of them is a freaking bag of garbage.
What?
He's a bag of trash. That is his inspiration.
Oh,
and there's another one that's like a set of keys. I'm like, really?
I love these. I really like... Because, Robert was talking earlier about the kind of, like, specifically Japanese elements of Pokemon. And one of those things is, like... I'm not an expert on Shinto, but, like, there is kind of a more, like, animistic belief system of, like, the spirit of objects. And you even see that in the first generation. Like, one of the Pokemon in the first generation is a rock, right? Like, Geodude is just, like, he's a floating rock with arms, right? So it's, like, from a certain point of view, why is a floating set of keys any more ridiculous than a floating rock?
I don't know. It just is.
Isn't like one of the Pokemon in one of the gens, like the Pokedex is a Pokemon?
Yeah, it's like Rotom, I think.
Yeah.
I have trouble with this because my attachment level is I do love the first and second gen probably the most, but I think just in general I'm less difficult to please when it comes to Pokemon. So I don't think there's a generation I've ever hated. I do think that there are two specific gens that probably didn't capture my attention as much, though, and that would be Diamond and Pearl. Something about that game, those games felt off, and it had something to do with like the world. I can't really put it into words, but because it's been a long time since I played it. And then X and Y, those were the first of the 3DS Pokemon games, and that introduced the annoying friend group. Didn't like them, and then they tried incorporating a 3D camera into certain areas. And the first town I went into where you were going from that perspective, oh my God, I got confused. I can't remember, again, it's been a while. I just remember the camera is following you in an awkward way, and I couldn't remember where I had come and gone from. And at that point, I stopped playing because I was just like, I got lost, and then I never came back. That, I think, just owes to getting used to a different perspective, because up to that point, all the games have been from like the top looking down. But, you know, Ruby and Sapphire, I believe Ruby's the one that I played the most of those two. I remember having fun with that, and that was my first Pokemon, like in terms of I actually played the games.
Cool.
And then...
Do you remember what your starter was?
I do not. And then I loved Black and White 2. Man, the art in that game, the visuals in Black and White 2, I think to this day remains my favorite look of the DS era. Maybe almost even more than the GBA era. Like those games were beautiful to me. And
was Black and White 2 like in lieu of a third game?
Yes, that was the first time they went for double extra games instead of one.
Yeah. So same starters, but it was kind of like
I believe
sort of like an ultimate version, or like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I went with Torchic in Gen 3, and then Piplup in Gen 4 was actually the first time I had not done a fire starter.
That was the penguin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually becomes an
Oh, I definitely picked Piplup for one of them.
For Gen 4.
And I had to have picked Torchic for one as well, because I remember his final form hating it.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I really love from Gen 1, it sticks out in my mind a lot for some reason, is, you know, when you encounter Zapdos, and Zapdos is lurking in a power plant. And there's just something so cool to me about that. And I think it's because, to me, it really represents exactly, you know, the idea of Pokemon and man coexisting, and the Pokemon living in this modern world, and how, you know, Zapdos was attracted to this centralized, whatever you want, like this repository of electric power.
Yeah.
And so that's where it wants to go, and that's where it wants to be. And that's where you find it and battle it. And I just think that that's really, really cool.
I like that. I like also the kind of like Flintstones-ish integration of Pokemon into like the daily routines of people.
Yeah.
I like that too.
Like Ash's mom in the anime has, you know, Mr. Mime instead of like a maid, or
of
like
all the things you could have.
Well, I think, though, that this kind of also, I don't want to say it had to go in the direction it has, but to Angie's earlier point about it being more grounded, when something is new and you're fleshing it out, it's going to be one way, and then when you get that chance to actually iterate upon it, you're going to see it expand and change. So, like, the idea is that Pokemon are part of this world that they live in. So I think it would make sense that the world would kind of be more advanced and a little bizarre, because how could it not be? I mean, if you think about it, like, why even have a power plant if you have a Pokemon that will happily just, I'm just going to hang out and give you all the power you need.
Just like plug in your Pikachu every night.
Or stuff, you know, I mean, it's just, it is interesting, because I know that as the games have progressed, it has gotten a little more sci-fi, but it's also like, well, it kind of makes sense that it would. Like, I think it is the third generation where the movers are...
Are they Machoke?
Yes. And it's like, well, why wouldn't they be that Pokemon, you know? They're super strong. It's kind of funny.
Actually, it's interesting. It's a good point, well received, and I will answer it with part 2 of Marrujo Pokemon Trivia Quiz. All right. A famous magician sued Nintendo due to the use of his signature magic trick prop in one Pokemon's visual design. What was that Pokemon, and who is that magician?
Robert, I can't remember the magician's name because nobody cares about that guy, but was it Alakazam? Because Because with the spoon, claim that they were ripping him off with his freaking spoon.
Angie, would you like a crack at this? Because it is not Alakazam.
But it's one of the three of those.
It's Kadabra,
There we go.
the magician. I just wrote this story for Nintendo Joe.
Yep. That's why I know it.
Yeah.
Because he just recently said it was okay. He gave us permission again.
Dude ruined generations of Pokemon card sets that don't have Kadabra because of him.
Yep.
But I can't remember his
Crybaby.
name.
All right. The guy's name is Yuri Geller.
Oh, yeah.
If you were a little older, you might have some more like cultural knowledge of him because he was like a late show feature and then punchline back in like the 80s.
And everyone got tired of his spoons.
Well, now I hope he's using his spoon at the soup kitchen. That's what he deserves.
Next episode. The game we covered in our previous episode, Okami, featured both an 8-headed dragon and an evil fox demon, both drawn from Japanese mythology, and both of which also have Pokemon counterparts. What are the names of the Pokemon based on these mythological evils?
Angela. Mm-hmm. So what was the fox demon?
Mm-hmm.
Ninetales.
That's correct.
What was the other one?
The Orochi, the 8-headed dragon.
The 8-headed dragon. Oh! I just had it in my head. Oh, why am I forgetting? I'm blanking. It's gonna take too long.
All right.
Robert?
Okay.
Is it Hydora? Or whatever it's called?
Called what?
Hydora, I think. It's that 3-headed dragon.
So that's the correct Pokemon. It's not the right name, but you know.
Yeah, like that. I could see it in my head, but I can't remember the name.
Hydreigon, I think.
Yeah.
Not that I knew, but I spent some time on Bulbapedia over the last 24 hours looking up potential trivia questions.
Yeah, I can never remember that Pokemon's name, but I could see it clearly in my head.
You know... Oh, go ahead. Are you still doing your...
No, we got a little more.
Okay.
Professors Oak, Elm, and Birch are named after trees in the U.S., but what are they named after in Japan?
Professor Wasabi?
That is not correct.
Oh, I do not know.
That's okay. Okay.
I'll take a guess.
Sure.
Flowers?
Flowers is actually correct.
Okay.
Flowers is correct.
Yeah, I thought that's what I remember reading.
So what's Professor Oak's name in Japanese then?
I think it's like Okita, but it means orchid.
Professor Orchid. Boring.
So they went with oak because it kind of sounds like
Yeah.
that. And in the years since, it looked like they kind of standardized on a tree naming system. So like Professor Magnolia from the newest game is Magnolia in Japan also. Kukui from the Alolan game is the first one that had the same name in both regions. Last question for part 2. Name all the regions featured in the 8 generations of Pokemon and their real-world counterparts.
Oh, and the real world counterparts?
I don't...
This is too much.
All right,
I can only give you some.
Okay, let me scale this back. All right. Let's go for the first 4.
Well, I mean, Kanto is...
Your name is your buzzer.
Angela. I mean, because Kanto is Kanto. Like the Kanto region of Japan. And then I think Johto is supposed to be Kyoto?
It's the Kansai region, that's right.
But I don't know about...
Is it Hoenn?
Hoenn is the third region.
Yeah, Hoenn is... But, like, I don't know. I mean, I just know that, like, obviously, like, Sword and Shield are supposed to be, you know, the UK. And Sun and Moon is supposed to be Hawaii. What's the one that's supposed to be Paris? That's
X and Y.
X and Y.
It's Kalos.
Yeah, Kalos. I don't think I actually know what the other ones are even were supposed to be.
You're correct about Kanto and Johto. Hoenn is the Kyushu island of Japan. That's like the southwestern island of Japan, closest to Okinawa.
Yeah.
Sinnoh, it corresponds to the Hokkaido area of Japan. So the first 4 are all Japan.
Okay.
And then the 5th one, Unova, is like New York City.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah.
6th one, Kalos, is France. Then Alola is Hawaii, and Galar is England, Great Britain. All right.
He's unknowledgeable Pokemon fan.
I just have. There's going to be like one real grand finish. There's only going to be one grand finale, but we'll get there when we get there. You guys are doing great so far, really.
I see.
Okay.
Cool. I will say, I'll just throw out. I do think original Fat Pikachu is the best Pikachu.
Indeed.
He's gotten a little too slim, a little too cute over the years.
Slim and trim.
Yeah. And I do share in general I don't necessarily like the design trends that Pokemon have taken over the years.
Yeah.
There's a simplicity to the earlier ones that I think does make it easier to see them as animals that would exist in the real world. But on the extreme other side, I think most of the legendary or high-end Pokemon from the earlier generations look kind of stupid. Like, I think Zapdos and Moltres and Articuno, and then the three, like,
Wrong.
dogs or whatever in the second generation, I think they look pretty stupid.
No.
But I love the design of
Nose Pass.
Those guys.
no. I can't remember all their names.
The Reggies.
No, I don't think those look good either.
Okay.
But I do really like
awesome.
the looks of the I think the legendaries or mythical. It's like one of those, whatever, from X and Y. It's like Xerneas,
Oh, and Veltal.
Yeah, those are cool.
and Zygarde, who are like all three of those are just like so far out there in the designs that I think it gets out of the kind of like dorky cool all the way into like really kind of interesting looking.
Well, that's
No.
Well, that's what's interesting about Pokemon is that, to my point as Kid Bert, thinking that there was too much cuteness, but there's cuteness and then there's legit cool stuff mixed in too. Like Scyther's super cool looking, and that's a Gen 1.
Houndoom.
Beedrill.
Yeah, you guys are kidding
Houndoom is super
yourselves.
cool.
Anyway, one thing I kind of wish they had thought to do earlier, because I think there's now almost 900 individual Pokemon. And then, the crazies who are angry that Nintendo isn't putting every one of these almost 900 into every game. But you do kind of put yourself in a corner when you carry them over, repeatedly. I think, I might be wrong, but I think you technically can have a Pokemon in Sword and Shield right now that you have transferred all the way from the original Game Boy games forward. From the different branches or the different ways that you could bridge them.
Yeah.
Because you could go from game to game. There were storage boxes.
Yeah.
And I think you can legit carry from Gen 1 to now. So Nintendo has made that a thing, but the sacrifice, I believe, comes in the form of getting some kind of less than spectacular designs as a result. Because it's there's this expectation you're going to do a new roster of Pokemon each time. You've got to design 150 more each time, and that means you're going to have some stinkers in there. But of course, the caveat to that is some people will love the stinker. It's like somebody's favorite Pokemon is Nosepass.
What is Nosepass?
It's that thing that's basically a giant stone nose, I believe.
He's a big ass rock with a big nose.
Yeah.
Is it like an Easter Island head design? Or?
Yeah,
kinda.
Well, my sister and I, we love Snorunt. And there's probably a bunch of people who are they have no attachment to that character. So that...
Yeah.
That's going to be subjective. But I think what is a brilliant thing that they've started doing is the variants based on region, which I think started with the Sun and Moon games, where you have the Alolan Raichu, the Alolan...
They're okay.
I love it because, at least it's based on an existing Pokemon, and then you don't have 10,000 Pokemon.
Well, it's also interesting how, talking about basing it in reality. We have variants of existing creatures all over the world. And so it's interesting seeing, I do think that was a creative element that they added. And even if I'm not a super big fan of the variants themselves.
And they kind of managed to avoid... So basically, if everything is Japan for the first 4 games, then maybe that's why you don't have these variants. But by the time you get to X and Y, and then Black and White, I guess logically you probably should have started to see some of them. And maybe if they ever remake those games, they can introduce the variants for there. But I think it's a cool way of allowing you to add Pokemon, but without overloading the system. Where it's by the time we're in 2040, you have 1,000 Pokemon or something insane.
Aren't there close to 1,000 Pokemon already?
Oh, you know what I mean. 10,000, whatever. Make it exponential.
I will say, and we've been going for a little while now. I won't just push us. I won't just force us towards the end. But I will say one of my final thoughts on this subject is that as a kid, one of my most memorable moments of Pokemon is Pokemon the first movie, and how amazing it was, having spent all these hours after school on the weekends watching the anime, and then the movie comes out. And for those of you who've watched it, there's the scene with Ash turning to stone and Pikachu crying, and that gets me emotional every single time. And I thought it was amazing how Detective Pikachu came out. And it was like everything came full circle. Like from my childhood all the way into my adulthood, and getting excited again about seeing Pokemon on the big screen again, but it's live action. And it's like the movies grew up with me, or I grew up with the movies. It was just this really awesome experience of being an adult and going to the movies again with this new Pokemon experience. And I would like to see more of that, but the broader point is just, to me, Pokemon has been really influential in my life. And even though I have as many, I think I still probably have more pros than cons, but I'm willing to criticize the series where I feel it needs to be criticized, but also like Pokemon is a phenomenon unlike anything I think I've ever experienced, anything else I've ever experienced. Mm-hmm. And I am interested to see where things go from Sword and Shield.
You mentioned earlier the distaste you have for the more sci-fi elements of the series. I don't remember what it's called, but they are coming out with a Pokemon game that takes place in
Legends.
Yeah,
like feudal Japan or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Arceus?
Yeah, I am interested. That one in particular, very interested to see how that's going to play and what comes out of that. And Nintendo's done other spin-offs over the years, like Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, and Pokemon Snap, and we're getting a new Pokemon Snap, and Pokemon Stadium was in itself this massive thing when it came out, but this one, Pokemon Legends is a very new direction with the open world format, and yeah, I am excited to see.
And there's also
gonna be like.
one other conspicuous hole in our conversation so far, which is the Pokemon game that I've seen you play the most in the time that we've been together, Pokemon Go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Pokemon Go, that was amazing when it came out. And it was amazing because it was what it was to me anyway. What I feel like it was really driven by, at least looking at the people around here in the Bay Area who were playing it, they were all around my age or a little bit older. So it was like, now we're adults and we have phones and we have jobs and whatever, but we still love Pokemon, and the idea of going out there with your phone and having this really interesting AR experience, and it was the dynamics going out there and engaging with strangers. Like Zack, I remember you and I had gone to Berkeley one day, and it was just dozens of people everywhere, and you could tell that
went to a park and everyone is like looking at their phone.
Yeah, everyone is on their phone, and like we're waiting for Pokemon to crop up, and then when we were going through the campus on UC Berkeley, and everyone, I think like a Rhyhorn had appeared, and you could just see this surge of people going in the same direction, and like a couple people were coming back because they had already gotten it. And they were like, yeah, like the Rhyhorn's over there by like, whatever entrance to a real building on campus. And it was an amazing phenomenon. And I'm really sad that died out because it was really cool. It was a really cool feeling.
I was bummed. Angela, you remember this. I wasn't playing Pokemon Go myself. I was trying to play Navigator. There were a bunch of like websites that were trying to basically scrape the servers to get Pokemon locations.
Oh yeah, and then they shut those down. Yeah,
the bastards.
Yeah, that was lame.
Because it was like really like one of the coolest multiplayer experiences I've had. Me on my phone trying to look at where various Pokemon are and trying to direct us. Like, we got to go 3 blocks that way.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun.
That was super fun.
Well, I guess if we're kind of closing out with this part of it, I think that Pokemon Go speaks to what the first Pokemon kind of solidified, which is video games suffer from a lot of stereotyping in terms of who plays them and what the games are about and all that. Pokemon very clearly demonstrated to people that not everyone is this shut-in maniac living in a basement. Because with Pokemon, it was like all of a sudden all these people want to trade. And they're linking their Game Boys and connecting. Yep. And you can't do that if there isn't a social element to gaming.
All of a sudden, all these basement trolls are like crawling out.
And this comes full circle with Pokemon Go, where again, it's like you still have this element of the populace that wants to pretend games and gaming are about a certain thing, and then here comes Pokemon Go.
Yep.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you have thousands, if not millions of people across the globe going out and playing. And I think that's another important aspect of Pokemon's legacy is the way it brings people together. Because even if it's the card game, you're either playing the card game face to face with somebody, which again is a social interaction, or you're just trading the cards. And that's a big part of what Pokemon is. Which, again, are the friends in Pokemon annoying in the games? Yes, but it kind of speaks to that element of the series, which is it fosters friendship and unity, which I think is a positive.
All right. Before we sign off, why don't we Pokemon Go to the grand quiz finale?
Oh, no.
Jeez.
So this is going to be a lightning round. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say the name of something which is going to be either Pokemon, a prescription medication, or some big data tech thing.
Okay.
And don't worry about ringing in. We're going to keep this moving, so just say what you think it is.
Okay.
This is a great variation on the Jonas Knox game show, which is wrestler or porn star.
Ambari.
Pokemon.
Big data.
What?
Spoink.
Pokemon.
Flink.
Big data.
Big data. Vibrava.
Pokemon.
Medicine.
Oh, man.
Bibarel.
Medicine.
Pokemon.
Oh, my
What?
God.
Say it again?
Bibarel.
Oh, okay,
I
no,
swear I've heard that during like a soap opera or two. Like a commercial.
Ledian.
That's a Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's a Pokemon. Voltaren.
Pokemon?
Drug. Milotic.
Pokemon.
That's a Pokemon. Togetic.
Tech.
Are you so Togetic and not Togetic?
It is not togetic.
All right.
Okay, I say
that,
tech.
that is tech. That's a big data thing.
Yeah.
Drug.
Tech.
Phoebus.
Pokemon.
That's a Pokemon. Colchris.
Medicine.
That's medicine. Azurill.
Pokemon.
Gemzar.
Medicine.
That's medicine. All right. I wasn't keeping track, but hope you enjoyed the big finish.
God.
And my last thing I want to say to Nintendo, if you
And
can,
Game Freak.
if in Game Freak, if you can make another Pokemon channel, that would be nice.
I want another Hey You Pikachu.
Oh yeah, that too.
Of course, we're all waiting for Pokemon Dash 2.
I think
With bated breath.
I think Game Freak needs to get back to their roots to like a Pokemon World War II. You know.
Why don't you play what's it called? Pokemon Conquest while you're waiting.
What is Pokemon Conquest?
It's that I think it's like an RTS set in like feudal Japan.
Yeah, it's really good.
No, I'm just saying like Pokemon needs to get back to its roots the way Call of Duty did.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
all
see
right.
what you're saying. Yeah, it does need to get back to its roots. It does.
Well, that's our big Pokemon episode.
Yeah. Happy 25th.
Happy 25th.
All right, you've been listening to the 7 Minutes Podcast. We'll see you next time talking about something or another. I don't know. I haven't looked at the schedule yet, but we'll see you then.